Saudi Arabia, Pakistan and Turkey pledged themselves to the mutual defence of each other. What could possibly go wrong? Which Pacific island nation has changed its name? And what we should be sitting on in our gardens this summer. Spoiler, it's chairs. I'm Andrew Muller. The Monocle Daily starts now. Hello and welcome to the Monocle Daily, coming to you from our studios here at Midori House in London. I'm Andrew Muller. My guests HJ Mai, Hannah Lucinda Smith, Grace Charlton and Nick Manise will discuss the day's big stories and chairs. Plus we'll have the weekly daily quiz and our regular wrap-up of what we've learned. Stay tuned, all that and more coming up right here on the Monocle Daily. This is the Monocle Daily. I'm Andrew Muller, and we will start in Saudi Arabia and with an eyebrow-arching defence pact agreed by Saudi Arabia, Pakistan and Turkey. The Mecca Joint Defence Agreement was signed in the city of that name by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Among its provisions is a NATO Article 5 style all-for-one and one-for-all clause, committing all three countries to mutual defence in the event of an attack on one of them. Fun facts to ponder: Turkey is also a member of NATO, Pakistan is nuclear armed, and all three countries have been involved in some sort of cross-border hostility in recent years. I'm joined right now by HJ Mai, Washington DC reporter and correspondent for Germany's TAZ newspaper, and Hannah Lucinda Smith, Monocle's Istanbul correspondent, though is currently in London. Hannah, first of all, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia did sign a joint pact of similar proportions last year. Why has Turkey joined?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And despite that pact and despite the attacks on Saudi Arabia coming from Iran that have happened since that, we haven't seen Pakistan jumping in to help. Of course, as you mentioned, Turkey is a member of NATO, another mutual defence alliance, and a Turkish foreign ministry official was very quick to point out today that this new defence arrangement does not cancel out other agreements. They didn't mention NATO, of course, that's what they're referring to. But overall, this is, on one level, a deeply significant pact other than anything else. This is possibly you could say the three biggest Sunni Muslim powers in the world. Pakistan, of course, also being the only Muslim nuclear power coming together in this defence arrangement. I think it's symbolic above everything else.
HJ, to bring you in, there will be a number of countries, one suspects, who will be other than delighted by this, perhaps most obviously Iran, because if one considers a map, this treaty or agreement could be pretty much designed to give Iran the feeling it was being hemmed in, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, if you look at the map, you have now Saudi, Turkey, and Pakistan basically surrounding Iran and in this new defense pact. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting announcement that we've seen this morning. And from a U.S. perspective, it's both. It has really the capabilities of putting more pressure on Tehran. But at the same time, it clearly also shows that, those allies, those three, are not convinced that they can count on the U.S., for their protection and in this, volatile times that we're in. So, there has not been a huge response so far out of Washington here or any, officials, whether it be the State Department or the White House. But it's definitely something that people here keep a close eye on. And let's not forget, the U.S. also just agreed to, sign a nuclear power deal with Saudi Arabia, which, who knows how that will develop.
Hannah, is it clear how deeply committed to each other these three partners are? I mean, does this, for example, in the all too imaginable eventuality of further hostilities between Pakistan and India, or indeed Pakistan and Afghanistan, does it commit Turkey to join in?
I think that is the kind of big worry, particularly for Turkey's NATO allies. I mean, again, I think it is really, really telling that the Turkey was the country to jump in immediately and sort of put some provisos on this. But also we should say, this is not the first time that these countries have cooperated. Turkey and Pakistan have a really, really deep-rooted relationship, including arms deals. Same with Turkey and Saudi Arabia, although that is not necessarily a kind of stable relationship. relationship. You have to go back only a decade, and Turkey and Saudi Arabia were very much adversaries in the region. So these things as well, they're not necessarily permanent or stable. The Middle East is a highly dynamic region. Particularly in recent years, we've seen alliances being forged and broken almost constantly.
HJ, to go back to something you were saying, which is the idea that an agreement like this, like agreements elsewhere in the world, could be partly symptomatic of people deciding to put a bit of distance between themselves and the United States for obvious reasons. Is it nevertheless likelier than not that the US will broadly approve of this relationship, not just because it squeezes Iran, as we were discussing earlier, but these are three countries and certainly three leaders with which President Trump has had pretty good relations so far?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that assessment. I think, yeah, absolutely. I think the overall and at least the public-facing statements will be all positive here. As you mentioned, all three countries and all three leaders are allies of the U.S. administration. President Trump has made it clear that, other countries have to step up in their security and defense. So I think it will be, welcomed here in Washington to a large degree. At the same time, it also, diminishes a little bit the influence that the U.S. has, in the region, when other countries now come together and don't have to rely exclusively on U.S. support. And obviously we've seen it, especially this war with Iran. This has now dragged on for, 5 months plus. That the U.S. might also not be, as capable of making, fast decisions and really winning wars in a fast way as we might have seen in the past. So I think, this is important, especially, when we talk about Saudi Arabia, who, has now received not just the attacks from Iran, but also, from the Houthis over the past several days. So I think, it's important for those countries. But yes, I absolutely agree with you that Washington and especially the White House will be publicly, at least, very supportive of this deal. And I think also, behind closed doors, I think there's not too much disagreement here. But, again, you have to worry about the U.S. influence in the region. But maybe that's something, this administration, wants to step back anyway.
And Hannah, just quickly and finally to bring you back in, is there or should there be a concern that there might be an inbuilt flaw in this agreement, in that aren't all three of these countries going to regard themselves as by default the senior partner?
Yeah, I think the element that we should also talk about is each country's own personal ambitions. They're all, we could call them rising or middle powers that have ambitions to be kind of bigger on the world stage than they have been previously. Saudi Arabia under Mohammed bin Salman, transforming itself domestically, but also on the world stage. And of course, Turkey, particularly since 2022, positioning itself as a big mediating power in the Russia-Ukraine war, also in this war with Iran, Pakistan as well, also playing a mediating role. So they're all countries that have, for decades been sort of on the sidelines when it comes to, big sort of geopolitical manoeuvring, and they're all trying to move further towards the centre. And I think if you went to any of the leaders of those countries, they would, as you say, probably like to see themselves as the senior party.
Hannah Lucinda Smith and HJ Mai, thank you both for joining us. You're listening to The Daily. This is the Monocle Daily. I'm Andrew Muller, and it is Friday, so I am, as is usually the case, welcoming to the studio my fellow contributing editor, Rob Bound. Rob, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Andrew. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, steady
on a fine, balmy Friday.
Before we cue up the annoying theme tune to the daily weekly quiz,
I know it well.
It has occurred to me that I've neglected to do that sort of proper pre-quiz show stuff of asking you, what do you do for a living, Rob?
Have you come far?
Exactly. Have you come far?
Yeah.
What do you do for a living, Rob?
God knows.
We've been wondering for some years, and now we've got you here.
Yeah, exactly. What does it entail? How long have you got, Andrew? How long is this quiz going to be? Is this one of the questions?
Well, unfortunately, it's kind of up to you now. I haven't thought this through. Shall we crack on? Shall we cue up the annoying theme music? That'll do.
Your royalties must be stacking up from writing this, by the way.
Well, you would think. 3 questions each, multiple choice. We ask them each in turn. At the end of it, we add up the scores and generally discover that I've won. Which way round do you want to do this? Shall I ask you first, or do you want to ask me first?
You ask me first.
Okay.
When you kick off.
Okay. I'm going to do this. Here is question 1. A Pacific jurisdiction, as in Pacific Ocean, not specific.
Yes.
A Pacific jurisdiction changed its name this week. From what to what? Was it A, from the Federated States of Micronesia to the United States of Micronesia? Was it Nauru to the Republic of Nauru? Was it the Cook Islands to Rarotonga and Aitutaki? Or was it Kiribati, which is spelt Kiribati, to Kiribati?
I'm quite tempted by the last one because I think that's just, maybe common sense has prevailed, as is often not the case.
I stumbled over that once myself in a script and got quite rightly yelled at by a couple of our more pedantic listeners.
I'm quite tempted by the Micronesia option because I feel like in an Asia of raising tensions, micro or otherwise, a united rather than simply a federal organisation might be, and the other two in the middle, slightly too spurious for me even be able to remember. So I'm going. I think your waspish number D is the one I'm going to go for.
So you think Kiribati has changed its name to Kiribati?
Yes.
Much though I wish they would, to spare me any further embarrassments of that sort. The answer is B. It is Nauru, which is now the Republic of Nauru.
Right.
Which
Similar sort of thing to D, then.
Well, I mean, Nauru is how it is pronounced in Nauruan, which is the local language, so fair enough. It is the world's 3rd smallest country by population, behind the Vatican and Tuvalu. But I'm still baffled. Maybe I'm just going to have to write it myself one day, that no one has done the sort of 20-part black comedy about Nauru in the 1980s. It was briefly per capita possibly the richest country on Earth because of the rich phosphate deposits of phosphate in the immense quantities of bird crap that were deposited all over it. It was the Saudi Arabia of bird crap. They built the tallest building in Australia, which was at the time Nauru House in Melbourne. Government-built houses were rented out for $5 a month. No taxes were collected. Urban myth insists that the police chief bought a yellow Lamborghini, which was a debatably sagacious purchase in a country.
Did he at least put a siren on the roof?
Well, yeah, but in a country which, as people pointed out, had 19 kilometres of paved road and a 40-kilometre-an-hour speed limit, and then
hopefully he got to use the runway.
Yeah, well, indeed. Again, they also had their own airline, which nobody flew on, and they invested in a West End musical on the life of Leonardo da Vinci, which not even the kind of people who go to see musicals went to see. But yet legend insists, and this may be one of those too good to check stories, that the police sergeant, having taken delivery of his yellow Lamborghini, at any rate discovered he was too fat to fit into it.
So my question one for you, Andrew. A book published this week reveals the oldest surviving sentence ever written in the first known alphabet. It was inscribed on an ivory comb found in the ruins of the Canaanite city of Lachish in what is today Israel. It dates back 3,700 years. What does the inscription say? A, may this tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard. B, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. C, make like the cock with his comb and crow for anew every day. Or D, tend here your sheep first, your goat second, your wife if need be.
This is outstanding. So this is, as far as we know, the oldest written down thing
ever in the first alphabet.
Okay, I'm ruling out beauty in the eye of the beholder because that strikes me as probably a later coinage. The one about sheep, goat and women, that sounds like a... Did they have Rob Bounds 40 centuries ago? Because that's what that sounds like. What were the other two?
A, may this tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard. And C is make like the cock with his comb and crow for every new day.
Tusk. Is there anything in that vicinity of the world which would have had a tusk that they would be thinking about? I'm torn between A and C. The tusk thing.
Tusk and the comb.
Tusk or comb. See, whereas like chickens have combs, and there would have been chickens, I'm assuming, in Israel, or what is now Israel at that point. I'm going C. Oh, was it A?
It was A.
No.
May this tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard. Well, I sort of hid that light in a considerable
God, that's
bushel,
annoying.
didn't I?
That is annoying.
Yeah, that is.
Okay, well, this week saw the staging of the 10th World Dog Surfing Championships at Lindamar Beach in Pacifica, California. What won in the large or extra-large dog category? Was it A, Bruce, an Australian Shepherd? Was it B, Rosie, a Labrador? Was it Ian, a St. Bernard, that's C? Or was it D, Herman, a German short-haired pointer?
I don't know whether, as an Australian, Andrew, you're going to lean very much into the Bruce, the Australian dog. Although, you know, you are making a...
Bruce, the Australian Shepherd, that is option A.
So option B is...
Rosie, a Labrador.
I think they're kind of too big and unwieldy, really. I think Rosie's too big and unwieldy to get sensibly on the surfboard.
So are you therefore ruling out Ian as St. Bernard as well?
I just think any St. Bernard would be called Ian.
An excellent name for a St. Bernard.
Ian the St. Bernard. I'm going for Herman, the German pointer. I think they're nimble enough, agile enough and fearless enough to get on that board amongst the waves in California.
It was Rosie, the Labrador. Rosie, who is formerly known as Ripon Rosie, it says here, also triumphed in the human-dog tandem category and was anointed the Spirit of Dog Surfing overall champion. These championships were also, it says here, the last ever appearance by retiring serial champion Charlie, who is also a Labrador. Turns out Charlie do surf, etc. One for the Apocalypse Now heads there. So that's two questions in. You have no points.
I have. Okay, no need to point. Question 2 for you, Andrew. Mm-hmm. This weekend, Super Typhoon Dolphin is due to make landfall across Taiwan and southwestern Japan. It's a Category 5 storm with winds of up to 165 miles an hour recorded so far, so perhaps not as benign behaviour as we tend to think is exhibited by dolphins. However, the next typhoon, already brewing in the east, has a cutesy food-related name. What is it? Is it A, Typhoon Kimchi, named after fermented spicy cabbage from Korea? Is it B, Typhoon Mochi, named after sweet chewy rice cakes from Japan? Is it C, Typhoon Onigiri, also Japanese, named after triangular rice balls wrapped in seaweed? Or is it D, Typhoon Dim Sum, named after bite-sized Cantonese cuisine?
Okay, it's not. I mean, okay, these are all daft, but it's not Typhoon Dim Sum.
I'd like to point out that these are all whichever is the correct name has been named by the 14-member strong Typhoon Committee, which is inaugurated by the UN and the World Meteorological Association in 1968. So it's top kosher stuff here.
How do you get on that? Do you have to wait till one of them dies?
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's not Typhoon Dim Sum. That would be idiotic. Kimchi I'm ruling out as well as a bit obvious, and I think the Koreans would take it amiss because that's their national dish, and I do not think the Koreans would take kindly to that being associated with this vast, hideous, destructive force. So that leaves the other two,
Have you ever kept any in the fridge? You know?
Well, you make a fair point. One of which I recall, I think C involves seaweed.
Yeah,
so I'm going to go ahead and suggest that was the link. I'm saying onigiri.
Well, Andrew, Yabu sucks to you because Typhoon Dim Sum.
Oh, it's not.
It is. Dim Sum. Storms, yes, and as I said, storms are named by the 14-member strong Typhoon Committee, and every so often a food-related one comes around. I looked through the chart. They're few and far between. The others I have made up, but Typhoon Dim Sum.
I mean, not...
But they stop that. Then, in history, if it goes and kills 1,000 poor people on an island somewhere, then they just sort of call it a Category 8 storm or something, and they dename it.
They give it a comedy name until or unless it does any actual damage, because they don't want the first line of people's obituaries reading was a victim of Typhoon Dim Sum. I mean, that would be adding insult to injury. Anyway, so this brings me to my third question, and Rob, you could steal a daunting lead here because neither of us have even hit the dartboard so far. So, sticking with the subject of Labradors, the Canadian hamlet of St. Mary's, which is in Newfoundland and Labrador, which is possibly the only jurisdiction on Earth named after two dog breeds. If someone does know better, please write in. But St. Mary's this week and at last has seen work commence on a 1.7 million Canadian dollar project to stop the town from absolutely reeking of what? Is it A, rotting moose, B, fermenting maple syrup, C, rancid poutine, or D, acrid fish sauce?
I mean, I'm thinking it's probably coastal if it's in Labrador and Newfoundland. So I'm going, I know there's a lot of these, I know there's a lot of maple around. There's probably a maple syrup factory in every small, largish town in that neck of the woods. Rotting moose. Can't wait. Was there at Custer's last stand,
Exactly,
obviously.
yeah.
I'm going with the acrid fish stuff. Oh, Andrew.
Appallingly, you are correct. The Atlantic Seafood Sauce Company closed more than 20 years ago in St Mary's, and when it did so, it abandoned 110 3,000-gallon tanks with results which were described this week by St Mary's Mayor, one Steve Ryan, as the worst rotted fish you ever smelled in your lifetime times 100. But $1.7 million is now at last being spent to
what are they doing with
enable these poor people to breathe for the first time in 20 years. So genuinely big hello to all our many listeners in St Mary's.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
But anyway, the pressure is now on, Rob.
Breathe easy.
I mean, I cannot win from here.
Right.
I can at best salvage a draw and some shred of honour.
Let's see if I can sit on this one. Question 3 for you, Andrew.
Go on.
Which controversial organisation this week published a statement that said that it, quotes, will no longer tolerate any attacks on its integrity, good governance and due process, and will take all necessary measures to protect and safeguard its name and reputation? Is that A, the US Department of War, headed up by the not at all suspiciously over-macho Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth? Is it B, those lovable rogues over at Hamas? Is it C, the criminally useless Moroccan border police? Or is it D, FIFA?
What was the quote again? It's quite pompous.
The quote is that this organisation, quote, will no longer tolerate any attacks on its integrity, good governance and due process, and will take all necessary measures to protect and safeguard its name and reputation.
FIFA obviously have been in the news this week for obvious reasons, and therefore I think it's possibly too obvious. The Moroccan border police, again, have not had a terrific week. Hamas, would they be issuing that statement? I'm ruling out Hamas, one, because I don't think they care, and I'm not sure at this point there's many of them left. It does sound like the sort of thing Pete Hegseth would say, because he is a massive pompous jackass. And I'm not convinced the Moroccan border police are sufficiently organised to even issue a statement after what we've witnessed this week. I'm going to go ahead and say it is the US Department of War, or so it thinks it is. Oh.
Well, Andrew,
this is dreadful.
If I can speak through the smiling,
go on,
and jubilance, it's FIFA.
Oh,
this was the pushing back part of a statement issued this Wednesday by the embattled International Football Federation that admitted to, quote, errors in their proposal to sell off chunks of the administrative function of the body to local businesses.
Did that statement actually include the phrase "will not tolerate"? What are they going to do?
They won't tolerate it.
What are they going to do?
No, they're not. They've had enough of being. They're pushing back, Andrew.
Mr. Infantino, if you're listening, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Rob, you've won. How does it feel?
I feel absolutely amazed. I'm going to go and celebrate royally.
I mean, it's 1-0, just like the World Cup final. At the last gasp.
Yeah.
I mean, after subjecting those who'd been witnessing it to just hours of unrelenting tedium.
I don't know how to celebrate, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm obviously going to celebrate by starting a massive fight with everybody who's left on the pitch. You can go and do whatever Spain
Well,
does.
I'm going to get photobombed by Donald Trump in my celebratory pomp.
Then everybody's happy. Rob Bound, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You are listening to the Monocle Daily with me, Andrew Muller. Now, in the Northern Hemisphere, at least, it is that time of year at which people in possession of a garden may wish to sit in it. This activity will be greatly enhanced by the acquisition of a chair, possibly more than one if they have any friends. Well, joining me now to discuss some options are Nick Monisse, Monocle's design editor, and Grace Charlton, Monocle's associate editor, and then in brackets like it's some sort of 1970s country hit, design and fashion. Nick and Grace, welcome to the show. My fellow Australians.
Okay, hang on. Chairs for friends. Do you have friends, Andrew Muller? I've never seen you outside of this office.
I have several.
Name them.
Several friends.
Let's run through them.
Several friends. Okay. I also have a garden which has chairs in it. So
nice.
So the conversation we're about to have is of desperate interest.
Well, can we start? What chairs do you have in your garden?
Well, they're those ones that are sort of made out of the kind of nylon stringy stuff. Is that garden ambience that Christy is playing over the back of this? Is that what we're doing?
That is garden ambience, I believe. Is that recorded in your garden?
No. Although it might be. I do have twittering avian life.
Grace also has outdoor furniture, but you sat on it and broke it. Is that correct?
I've got a balcony and I've inherited from previous owners these wooden chairs that are all completely broken. I can't remember who sat in them and broke them, but maybe it was me.
I am assuming that the point of this item is to persuade me that I could be doing better, and certainly my guests could be, than the upturned potato crates that I have been using all these years.
I think so. I think that's what we're going to go for. So we've made a selection.
Okay.
Of chairs.
A lot of people would pay good money for this.
Exactly. We could set up a consultancy, a chair consultancy.
Yeah. So we'll start off. This is Nick's pick. It's a rooster folding stool.
Right. That is an upturned potato crate.
I know, but is your upturned potato crate as savvily designed as this? So this is by Barry Simpson. He was a Yale Design School graduate. Moved to Mad River Valley, which sort of sounds a little bit like somewhere you might belong. In Vermont, post-graduation, this is in the 60s and 70s, established the Dirt Road Company, where he made a heap of different furniture that was sturdy, built for the outdoors, flexible, robust. Again, all things, all words I would use to characterize you, which is why I think this stool. This has just turned into a competition. By the way, you've got to pick one or Grace's.
Okay, but I mean, I'm here to, at the risk of disappointing you, Nick. This is not getting up to the gate, because while obviously delightful to look at, I do not get the impression it's terrifically comfortable. I mean, you're not going to recline into that with a book and a cup of coffee.
Because, this is great because Andrew.
Because if you tried to recline on this, you would fall off.
Andrew, please look at my selection for you. This is the crate chair by Dutch designer
Again,
It's a pine chair.
Again, the upturned potato crate.
Very low slung. And you know why I picked it for you, especially Andrew Muller?
Why was that?
It's because it's a modern take on a Dirondack chair, and it's got really wide armrests, which means you could rest a book and a beer.
You could rest a book. You could rest a book on one armrest and a beer on the other.
But see, mine's
and so you could sit back in this, Nick.
I think mine's a more optimistic selection. I've actually got your guess in mind, because this is folding. You can have multiple of them. Think about how many more friends you can make. I mean, bust out these chairs, these stools. All of a sudden, friendships.
From my purposes, Nick, this one you've suggested does work well in that respect, because they're not staying long if they have to sit on this.
Okay, next, this is Nick's choice.
Now this is something a little bit different. This is actually an indoor chair, but I think
then this is just a waste of everybody's time.
I think with if you embrace the seasonality, if you bring it indoors during winter, if you give it a good lick of oil.
Nick, this is an audio medium. Maybe describe.
This is a Jimmy Possum chair. I picked it because it's Australian, late 19th century vernacular furniture.
Vernacular furniture?
It means furniture that is of a place. It speaks to the place that it's from.
All furniture's of a place.
No, it's not. It's not. This is something that is distinctly Australian. What I really like is that the armrests.
Nick, it's a very handsome chair. It is not distinctively Australian. I have travelled widely, Nick. They have chairs in other places.
No, We've
got the garden ambience back.
You know, it's funny when you say very handsome, I can't help but think of you, Andrew Muller.
Well, I mean, I get that a lot, obviously. Nick, I have to disqualify this. It's an indoor chair.
Oh, he got you there.
But I think with a little bit of oil, a little bit of care, a little bit of TLC, a little bit of attention to detail, bring it inside, bring it outside. It's versatile. It's more versatile than any of these others.
Okay,
You're not moving Grace's crates inside.
I don't want to care for a chair, Nick.
So here we go. You'll love this one. Stainless steel, designed in Burgundy.
Paint the picture for us.
1958. It's called the UD chair. It's by Tollix. It was designed by Jean Bouchard in 1958 for the University of Dijon. I thought you might like this one as an academic, like someone quite learned yourself.
You see what Grace is doing here, Nick? She's going with the flattery.
But remember the handsome comment I just made?
Well, yeah, there is that. But
So explain this chair to me, Andrew Muller. What appeals to you about this chair?
I haven't actually, Nick, if you've been paying attention, I haven't passed judgment on it yet. I mean, it's all right. I do, see, I have, for example, in my garden, there are two sort of areas with chairs. There's one up the back which has those kind of, as I was saying, those big sort of circular chairs with the colourful nylon string which you can just sort of slouch into.
Yep, another one.
By Atmo.
I've got no idea. And closer to the back door, there are a couple of metal chairs next to a small...
So these look like the sort of chairs that you would find, and I'm loath to be critical of Tollix who make these chairs.
Mine, I will confess, are somewhat, and by somewhat I mean literally more IKEA than Tollix.
These were, though, they would be much more IKEA than Tollix, but this looks like a church chair. You know, it's sort of something like...
What kind of churches are you going to?
The kind of stackable ones that they bust out at Christmas. That's what we're going for here. I mean, this is a very classic... It's classic. It's expected. Not like a stool. Unexpected.
Listeners, to remind you, Nick is from Western Australia. Churches elsewhere have pews.
This is Nick's next selection, which I have to say I'm a little bit threatened by.
Is this Nick's suggestion?
Yeah, and I think this is excellent. So this appeared in our Monocle publication, Med, Mountains and More. It's a seasonal newspaper with a delightful supplement magazine, a glossy magazine.
It says on the piece of paper, plug Monocle newspaper, Med, Mountains.
And that's exactly what I'm doing.
Well done.
Do you want to have a go as well? Would you pick this up and read this knowing that this chair's inside? This is kind of a take on the classic butterfly chair. So it's made
beyond a shadow of a doubt, Nick. If I was in two minds, not that I would be, but if I was in two minds about purchasing Med, Mountains and More, which I believe is on all good newsstands right now, and someone told me that inside it there is a picture of the Hay Outdoor Market folding chair, whew,
Oh, you couldn't get enough of it, could you?
That newsstand would not know what it hit it.
That is a plug. That is one way to do a plug. No, but this is designed by Jasper Morrison. What I like about it is I pictured, yes, look, in Andrew Muller's backyard in London. I can see this happening.
Would love an invite.
It's a take on the butterfly chair. It's a canvas seat, but it can also fold up, go in the back of your car. We've checked it in while we're going to Australia. You're busting this out. Country footy games, camping, backyard at your dad's place. You've winced at camping. I've missed a trick there.
Exactly.
Damn it.
Why would anyone do that? But no, I mean, this is a nice-looking chair. It does look like it would be comfortable.
It would be so comfortable for you, Andrew Muller. You would love it.
My question is, can you just leave it outside all the time?
Oh, you can, because it's a wonderful recycled textile made by Hay, which is an excellent Danish company. They're just the top of the game. They have built it with longevity in mind, much like yourself.
Is there a concern that it might look that little bit too handsome and might therefore be filched by ne'er-do-wells?
Are we talking about you or the chair? I'm a little bit confused right now.
I mean like ne'er-do-wells in one's neighbourhood. I don't know how much of a trade there is in stolen garden furniture, but
with a chair like this, I imagine booming. I mean, this is one chair I would certainly want to steal. I also think it would probably look better with a little bit of age, a little bit of grace added to it. You know what I mean? Not Grace, the person who we're going to hear from next.
Okay,
but
final suggestion, because Andrew, I'm hearing your feedback. You want comfort.
Yeah.
How about an outdoor beanbag by Fatboy?
Outdoor beanbag.
How is your core strength? Do you think you could get out of this? It is literally a beanbag made with a nylon textile so that you can leave it outside.
Nice. Designed in 1998, which I'm sure is a year you remember fondly. I can't remember it, to be honest. I was too young. But I think this screams Andrew Muller.
Really?
How is your core strength? I want the answer.
I think it might be more a case of Andrew Muller screaming when he tries to stand up after sitting in it. But this essentially goes on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah. So pick your favourite.
Yeah.
Wait, so hang on. Closing remark. Do you want any closing remarks for why? Which one are you picking for Andrew? Let's pick one each and then put them up against each other.
If I had to pick one, I would go with Tollix, mostly for outdoor dinner parties. I think the other ones are a little bit too low slung for me.
Okay, Nick, which one's your favourite?
Well, the only one that I think you might even like remotely, which is the Hay Outdoor Market folding chair, very much like a butterfly chair, are wonderful. And speaking of butterflies, people that have emerge from their cocoon and are flying away in some sort of elegance. You, Andrew Muller.
I'm going to pick neither of these. The winner is the crate chair. by Gerrit Rietveld for Hay of Denmark, which, despite looking like it might well have been made out of a potato crate, I'm sure costs many multiples of what a potato crate would.
Was it the suggestion that you could rest a beer and a book on?
Yeah, that was basically it.
Yeah, I thought
and also, I wanted to annoy Nick. That was a big part of it.
I'll take it.
Anyway, my weekend's ruined.
Yeah, victory for Grace. Do we want to play the other sound effect of a chair creaking? What was that?
I think somebody just dropped something.
Yeah. Anyway, that was our other bit of ambience. We had the Twitter.
I liked the garden. Can we bring the garden back to close this out?
Yeah, Christy.
And
that's nice.
Quickly, what do you? We've posted up. Grace and I have invited ourselves over, or jumped the fence. Yep. What are you serving up for a backyard barbecue?
I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. I mean, any preferences? I mean, what do you eat in Western Australia at a barbecue?
Sausages and buns.
Okay, and whatever you hit on the way there, right?
Exactly. The roadkill special.
Yeah. Nick Manise and Grace Charlton, thank you both for joining us. You're listening to The Daily. You're listening to The Daily with me, Andrew Muller, and finally on today's show, our regular assessment of the degree to which the last 7 days have left us any the wiser. We learned this week how to spell dumb.
Biden and the radical left, Democrats. I call them Democrats because their policies are so dumb. Dumb. You exchange the E with a U, and nobody knows that dumb doesn't have a B.
Well, perhaps not your voters, Chief. But anyway, this week's What We Learned news review on Monocle Radio is brought to you by the word dumb. But then, when isn't it?
I think so.
We learned, for starters, that whatever attention the US administration may have been paying in English class appeared to have come at the expense of their concentration on geography.
We all make mistakes, but the multi-billion-dollar US State Department shouldn't have made this one.
At a major international conference, it has produced a map of Africa that has become an embarrassment to America and a source of outrage for Africans.
We learned, yes, that an American presentation to an international conference on HIV and AIDS had relied heavily on a map on which most of Nigeria had been relocated inland, Mozambique dropped on Ethiopia, Ivory Coast moved to Malawi to the borders of South Africa, Zimbabwe and Botswana, and Cameroon to Ghana, and all of them the wrong shape. Credit where due, though, Uganda more or less in the right spot, just a third or so of it spilling over into Kenya, so well done there. From which we learned any or all of. Nobody at the US State Department has bothered to learn where anything in Africa even is. Somebody at the US State Department had just outsourced everything to AI, and that, just possibly, one of the reasons the United States was continuing to experience such difficulty extricating itself from Iran was that they thought they'd been invading Iceland, Iowa, Innsbruck, or perhaps, who knows, the Heard and MacDonald Islands, upon whose penguins the United States continues to impose a 10% tariff. Still, we learned that the State Department was not the only arm of the US government feeding prompts into AI and getting results at variance with reality. We learned that President Donald Trump had posted a slop picture of himself alongside General George Patton and General Douglas MacArthur, although inevitably outranking both and wearing more medals than either. Which, to be clear, is behaviour which is entirely sane, normal, and in no manner a grotesque insult to actual service personnel coming as it does from a serial draft dodger, and which would be happily, indeed merrily laughed off by American conservatives if a Democrat did it. Although we learned upon further scrutiny of the image that Trump's preferred slop generator had decided that MacArthur had just 2 stars on his shoulders rather than his actual 5, and yet was also for some reason a corporal in the, we think, Australian army, and that Patton was, again this is our best guess, a colonel in a Soviet mechanized infantry unit. If any listeners in the vicinity of the Luxembourg American Cemetery have recently noticed a rumbling emanating from the graveyard, there's your answer. Imaginably, yes. But we did learn that there were realms in which the Commander-in-Chief's attention to detail was less inclined to waver.
Those are workers jackhammering President Trump's new helipad, which has been under construction since his backyard UFC fight on June 14th. And if you take a close look, on July 30th, you can see letters that say Seal of the President of the United States. On August 1st, those letters were taken apart, and then by August 4th, the letters were gone.
We learned that the helipad, which is replacing the Ultimate Fighting Championship ring, which replaced the south lawn of the White House. Big hello to any listeners who are just now waking from a decade-long coma. This is, to be clear, all actually happening.
Hello!
Appeared not to have pleased the president. Possibly it simply isn't gold enough, who has ordered it ripped up and relaid. Which, we're pretty sure we learned, was not the only thing he has ordered ripped up and relaid.
Observers noticed that Trump's trademark blonde hairstyle appeared significantly fuller and more voluminous than it had during recent public appearances.
But sticking with the subject of uncomprehending and ill-qualified creatures with startlingly thick and bristly blonde hair meandering for some reason into legislatures in the Americas, we learned that one state house in Brazil, specifically that of Mato Grosso, which in Portuguese means
thick bush.
Thanks, Fernando, and for heaven's sake, grow up, everybody, had been beset by capybaras.
A group of the world's largest rodent sauntered through the front doors of the Mato Grosso assembly in Cuiabá, briefly interrupting business before staff gently guided them outside.
Which means we also learned how to gently guide a capybara outside, and you never know when that's going to come in handy.
Pra lá, não pode.
Back to our Brazil desk. Fernando, what does that mean?
Go there, go there. No, you can't.
There, you can all thank us next time your place of work is assailed by immense semi-aquatic herbivores. Write it down.
Go there. Go there. No. You can't.
And we learned of a development in the most boring musical work ever composed. Sorry, our mistake, forgot about the Floyd. Second most boring musical work ever composed. We learned that at St. Bacardi Church in the German settlement of Halberstadt, another chord had been struck in a rendition of As Slow as Possible, a willfully interminable symphony by tedious avant-gardist John Cage, which has been performed continuously in St. Bacardi's since 2001 and is due to continue until 2640. The tone shifting subtly on an irregular schedule. We learned that what we had been waiting for since February 5th, 2024 was this. We'll see you for the promised change to E major 4th on October 5th, 2027, which we can all agree is well worth staying alive for. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Muller. And that's all for this edition of the Monocle Daily. Thanks to all our guests today. The show was produced by Hassan Anderson and researched by Kaylee Martin. Our sound engineer was Christy O'Grady. I'm Andrew Muller here in London. The Daily is back at the same time on Monday. Have a great weekend and thanks for listening.